Well, welcome to another episode of the PPSS Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, also best-selling author, and every single day I help others unlock potential to guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest on the show. We interview celebrities, entrepreneurs, business CEOs, athletes, and artists to find out their path to success, how they're able to overcome challenges and adversity, and of course, their keys to success. And today's guest is definitely somebody who can shine some light into that and add some value to that conversation because she is very, very good at what she does, comes highly recommended. And I've actually had the privilege and the honor to hear her speak a few times. Her ability to captivate you with her storytelling, her ability to be passionate and authentic really gets people to really listen to her speak and really engage and understand that message she's getting out there. She's been able to help a lot of people become more and more successful, becoming able to elevate themselves beyond the barriers that they set up for themselves so that they can kind of shatter all those barriers with her help. She's been able to help and empower people to really deliberately live their true self, their true them, so that they can become more successful and becoming more loving for themselves as well. She's a person who helps them really live life's purpose and align with their vision. So please welcome mindset coach, motivational speaker, the feminine warrior herself, Ms. Deborah Dickinson.
Wow, thank you. Hello.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is amazing.
Awesome. Well, first of all, you are known as the feminine warrior. And I guess the question is, how did you become the superhero? What's your origin story?
Yeah, sure. So originally from New Zealand, and I grew up in the top of the North Island of New Zealand. So it's the entire New Zealand's a beautiful place, but where I come from is an extra special spot. So it absolutely, growing up within nature and surrounded by my Māori culture. I took a lot from just being on the land. We lived off the land a lot, so fished and hunted, and all of that was just part of everyday life for us. And but I lost my mum at a very young age, and that turned my world upside down. My father did remarry pretty quickly, with the great intention of having a mother for his two daughters. So my little sister was only 18 months old. She was only a baby. However, that didn't quite work out for us. And there was a lot of turmoil that happened after that. And I moved to Australia when I was only 21 and just sort of survived. Survived's not the right word, but I fought through all the different challenges. But the reality was, in the background of everything that I did, was surrounded by self-doubt. Now, the feminine warrior came through like a shining light through my transformation, because one of the things that I realized through not deliberately living and being me was that I was creating these two very prominent, strong energies, which we all have, being feminine and being masculine, which I changed to warrior. Now, warrior aligns with my culture. It aligns with that Māori culture, and the feminine, of course, was something that I was not being. I was actually not being true to myself. I was not being authentic. But through my transformation, I learned how to align those two energies perfectly, so that I could absolutely be authentic, be deliberately living, which now allows me to work with so many amazing people to help them do exactly that, shatter their limits and live deliberately. So yeah, that's just a snippet of my origins.
So how does one live deliberately? Like it sounds like it's such a simple thing, but not
Yes.
everybody actually does that. So how does one live deliberately?
Yeah, sure. So it for me, it's the simplicity is about being in the moment and being absolutely aware of those choices that you're making, consciously and subconsciously. And one of the amazing things that I enjoy doing when I'm working with people is bringing them that into that space of awareness. of awareness of their past,
Mhm.
awareness of their present, and therefore being more deliberate about their future. So it is, and it's being able to be in control of those subconscious moments.
Mhm.
So, the mindset change.
Mhm.
Be who you want to be by thinking about who that is.
And what are some of the signs of people not living deliberately? What are they not doing correctly, or what are they doing every single day that stops them from actually living the life that they want to live?
Yeah, sure. So, I think the obvious, well, definitely what I'm seeing as a trend through my clients is that what they're saying and what they're doing are two different things. So they're saying that they want to do this or be this, however, their actions are not aligning with that. So that immediately is a sign of not living deliberately, not being in that moment. Um, again, just being able to bring that awareness to them about the self-talk that they are potentially having. So the conversations that they have to themselves, which have stemmed from their beliefs, from their values, are actually contradicting what the conscious is saying that they want to do. So that's the most obvious sign.
And so when people wake up in the morning, are there certain things that they can do on a like as a routine, as a habit that they can form that allows them to make it easier? Because like it's one thing to go, you know what, just live deliberately, be aware. Yeah, 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 okay. And then they go, well, how do I do that? Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
They need certain strategies, certain systems to implement. And what could some of those things be that they can do right when they get up?
Yep, sure. And that so it's a practice that I do. It's a practice that I teach, which stems from journaling, and that is the first thing. One of the first things I do is what I call a brain dump, and that is literally getting up and just writing in your journal. It doesn't need to make sense. Just whatever those thoughts are that come to your head, just write them down. And like I said, it's what I call the brain dump because you're literally just releasing what's at top of mind. Now, what can happen is that through that, there can be some ideas, some visions that you've that are coming from that brain dump, and then making those part of your goals and asking the questions about whether you're aligning to yourself through that. So that's one thing. The other thing is having a like an affirmation or a prayer that you open your mind and your eyes with as first thing in the morning. I love to go for a walk. So I'm very close to the beach. So being out in nature again helps with that. So it's just rejuvenating those thoughts, keeping them on track that align to your goals, your authenticity, that deliberately living.
Mhm.
So journaling, absolutely. I like to call it brain dumping. And then what you might want to do after that is actually journal about what your day is going to be. Like, what are you going to look out for today? What are you going to, what if, when you look at your goals, or what you want to achieve, what is the one or two things that you're going to absolutely make sure you get done today?
I liked how you say it's a brain dump. You put everything in there. It does not need to make sense at all. Which then leads me to this question. What was one of the most weirdest things that you've read that you wrote the day before that you now go, wait a minute, what did I mean about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one which was about and I was just writing it, and the words that kept coming to my mind was mountain climb, climb mountain. And I'm like, when I read that, I'm like, well, I'm not a person that really hikes. So, so it was like, now, is there something in that? Should I start venturing out even further? So even though growing in nature, it wasn't really hiking. It was just, go out to the paddocks, climb the trees, that sort of stuff. But actually doing hikes was something. So that was, for me, that was a moment because it was like, oh, that sounds like a challenge.
Awesome. No, lots of people who goes, okay, what's the biggest difference that I'm gonna feel when I start doing stuff like this? Let's say they wake up all the time, writing their thoughts out, they're journaling, they're going out for a walk. what are some of the first things that people like your clients have experienced or seen as a change in their life in like a short period of time?
The clarity that they get. Um, Now they are um, having thoughts that pop into their mind that just gives them clarity. The moment it pops in, it's like, yes, that makes sense, or yes, that's exactly what I need to do. Whereas before, the thoughts are very different. The what pops into their mind are things that are like that they feel makes them feel really heavy and weighted. So, and that's a lot of feedback I get is, I don't know what you've done, but I feel so much lighter today.
Mhm.
Or, like I had this most amazing idea and it's something that I've always wanted to do. So it's that light, airy feeling that they have and the confidence that they have in their thoughts.
Mm. Is it sometimes a matter of not worrying about stuff that much? Like for instance, it might still be there, but you now recognize that, you know what, this isn't as important or the consequences aren't as dire as I once thought. Therefore, I'm a little stress-free now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that goes hand in hand with the way that they feel in their body.
Mhm.
The reactions that they get through the thought. So, one of the practices that we go through is understanding how words feel.
Mhm.
So for example, I have some clients that really just dislike the word goals. So I ask them about how they feel about that and what emotions come up, and we find another word, and we just that they're going to resonate with, so that it makes them feel lighter. They're happy to say it, and even the tone of their voice lifts upwards, and not downwards.
Mhm. Just something very simple like that makes it sound like a question or an unsureness. Um, when you're talking about well-being and mental health, that's something that's on the minds of a lot of people now. It's out there in the forefront that hey, we need to think about this more. It's more of a concern now. It's not something we could put behind us. Why do you think there's still people out there that does not prioritize well-being and mental health?
Because it's just at the moment, it's just part of who they are. They believe it. I, uh, yeah, I have a few clients that have what I call labels, and you describe the label, and they fit it. They make sure that they fit it. So, a- and a- and I feel, yeah, and I think that's it. It's just that they actually people believe that's what they identify with,
Mhm.
um, and 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 it's just, and again, it really is as simple as that awareness of being something that externally says, this is what it looks like.
Mhm.
This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what it sounds like. So they're looking for all of those things to be that. But that awareness, that awakeness around, in fact, I have an example with a client who has ADHD, um, and then I asked him, well, was there what happens when you don't have that label? What does that look like for you? And he says, well, and he started to describe a story when he was young. And I said to him, oh, that's interesting. So you could be that without having to be all these other things. And he said to me, well, yeah, because I've been that before. Like, just so nonchalant. It was like, yeah, obvious, because I've been that before. And I went, right, okay, sit with that for a moment. So yeah, for me, I feel that that's where it stems from.
Mhm. Now, when it comes to you coaching and you mentoring people who are struggling with that mindset of, oh, that's who I am, I can't change, I've been like this for a long time, that's my authentic self, and how do you help them break through that barrier? Because like it's something they've gone through their entire lives. We talk a lot about being authentic and being your true self, but if they truly believe that's their true self, how do they break through that?
Two things. Stories. So I share a lot of my examples, my stories with them. Um, and the second thing is go back to your childhood. Go back to when you were this little girl or little boy, and remember the most fun time that you ever had. And and then I take them on a journey of really feeling what that was like then, and then asking themselves when was the last time they felt like that.
Mhm.
Then there's this again, this connection between between who I was as this little person that didn't have any barriers, was just out in nature climbing a tree and being very aware of how careful I needed to be, or else that, if I lean on that branch, I'm going to fall out, or this is going to be very safe for me, and I can sit up here and look out at nature, and it just looks beautiful. So, and there's no barriers around that thinking. But we're so aware of where we are, what our environment is, and connecting with all of those things in the moment. Whereas where a person is now, it's about all of it's about quite the opposite. So it is very much about just reconnecting to, it can even just be a moment.
Mhm.
And again, it is about remembering who you were before there were barriers, before there were stories that you told yourself, before you became, and yeah, before you came what society's expectations were.
Mhm. And how does one do that? Because I know there's some people out there that they have these amazing memories. They can remember exactly, oh, when I was this age, I was able to do this, this, and this. But then there are some who goes, I don't remember anything about my childhood.
Yeah, yeah,
So how
yeah,
how do you get them to tap back into that memory? Is there
yeah.
anything that exercises or stories that you can go, hey, read this, do this, and that would usually pique some of your thoughts of your past?
Yes, yes. So I always start when I'm seeing my clients, I always start with, what do you love doing? What are you good at? And that starts a conversation of being in that positive space. And if there are things that come up that they focus on, excuse me, that they focus on, that sort of on the negative side, I will quickly switch that to being in the positive, so that we're always talking about the great things that they do. Because what I do find with the majority of my clients is the moment they're talking about them and the things that they love to do, different there's a whole different persona about them.
Mhm.
And I highlight those moments back to them. And I go, did you realize how enormous your smile was? Did you realize that your voice changed? And again, back into that awareness. Now, it doesn't happen, even though I'm bringing all this to light, for them, it doesn't happen straight away, but they now have a memory of, okay, I do change when I think about the things that I'm really passionate about and talk about it. There
Mhm.
is a difference between that from the robotic stuff that I do, because this is who I am today in this place. So um, it is about reconnecting and reminding yourself of all the things you love doing, because a different person to who you identify with starts to surface.
Mhm.
And so with a lot of my clients, that's exactly how we start. We'll start the session off with that all the time.
Mhm.
So, the more we're there, the more we align with it, love it, feel great about it. And it starts to replace some of the thoughts, behaviors, and patterns that we have.
Awesome. I liked how you said that you would get them to revisit certain things, and if it was a negative, you swap it over to a positive standpoint or something that's actually advantageous or beneficial. Now, that doesn't come naturally to most people. Most people
No.
would see something, oh, that's bad. Oh, that means this and this means that. How does one like yourself maintain a positive mindset on perspective?
Yeah, so and that's the thing, it's the perspective. It's knowing that this is one perspective. I remember an All Black player who I actually went to school with, and he was a great player. He played for the All Blacks, played for the Sevens, and while he was coming up through that, his he one of the coaches said to him, you know, you're such a great player. This is amazing. So he was so excited, went back to tell his father, and his father said to him, yeah, that's one perspective. Go and find more. And that I've never forgotten that story when Eric told me, and that's exactly it. It's about the perspective. It's about finding we naturally find the truth in what we believe, right? And we find our truth, we find our perspective, but is it the truth? And this is so the other thing I do with my clients when they start talking about you know, negative sort of things about themselves. And I just say to them, okay, let's have a look at that. Now, let's see what the facts are about that.
Mhm.
And we go through those. And so therefore they get to get an immediate example of tearing away the fluff to the story and getting right down to the fact. And the facts end up being, well, actually, you know, yeah, that is what I do. And actually it is a great thing. It's all the story around it that made that great thing not so great.
Mhm. And how do you maintain positivity around you? Like if something is negative or something is not framed in good light, what do you do? Do you walk away? Do you ignore it? How do you combat that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I surround myself with good people, with the right things around me. And yes, if I'm in a space where it's not it is not my space, then I will absolutely walk away from it. Or even the other thing I do is try and flip that conversation. Now, if it flips, great. If it doesn't flip, then that's definitely a sign for me to walk away. And that is also part of the practices that I go through with my client is feeling that moment that you start to feel heavy, or you start to sink back inside. Is firstly recognize that, and remind yourself in that moment that this isn't me. However, I could start to see if we could change that, and if we don't, then that's okay. That's absolutely okay, and I think that's the key too, is to know that everything is okay.
Mm,
The best thing that you can do for yourself is recognize that. So yes, absolutely. Um, not yeah, don't allow yourself to be revert back to something that you're not.
mm,
Be very conscious about all of that, but most of all, surround yourself with the right people, and be in the right spaces. So go and find your people, find your tribe, find the things that you're passionate about.
mm.
Be amongst those, you know, and if in doubt, create yourself.
Mhm. Totally agreed. I mean, it makes a whole world of difference when you're in an environment where everybody else is working towards a common goal or common kind of interest of succeeding and growing versus in an environment where everybody's kind of holding you back and you start going,
Yes.
okay, maybe I shouldn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of people out there that the people that they're surrounded with that's holding them back may or may not be their family and close loved ones and friends that are saying those things not because they don't want them to succeed, but from a perspective of protection. They
Yes,
don't-
absolutely.
So how do you navigate through that? Because you can't just ignore them, right? You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
just go, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going over
yeah,
there. Okay,
yeah,
we're in the same
yeah.
room. So what do you do with that from a mental standpoint of perspective, or do you fight that?
You know what? Sometimes you can get caught up in it, and you do actually fight it, right? Let's be really honest and put it out there. But sometimes you can get so caught up in somebody else's energy that you actually you're playing along with it. Um, so yeah, so for me, the first thing I do is really just be quiet and listen. And something else somebody taught me was, when you're in a kind of heated, battled conversation, don't just listen, don't say anything, and only respond when something positive comes out of the other person's mouth. So then over time, they realize, hang on, every time I say something that's positive, that's when I get a response. Um, so yeah, but again, it is that overall knowing, connecting with yourself, knowing how different things make you feel, um, your empowerment to be able to create your energy for somebody else to hopefully feel and be a part of it's amazing, and I love that. I love having conversations with people when you can step into a conversation and you can hear it and feel it being, quite that, like what you were saying before, quite that negative space, and just being able to, I suppose, impose a positivity about it and see them then switch that. That's amazing. I love that feeling. But it's also respecting that, you know what, that's where they're at right now.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily going, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going over there. It's also respecting that there's a journey for them to go through,
Mhm.
and just be there. If whether it's your direct community, whether it's your family, whether it's somebody you just met, it is really about that. Just be there for them in that moment. Be very conscious and respectful for where they're at, and maybe there's also a sign that you are meant to meet them for some reason, um, and that they might come back through your life again and be, you might be in a position where you can actually start having some great conversations and giving them other perspectives to the way that they look and see things.
Mhm. I'm sure there's like one person out there who goes, "What? I can't like comment if it's not a positive comment. I guess I'm gonna go mute for a while."
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Uh, for you, when you are surrounding yourself with other people who are motivating and inspiring and positive, how did you find that tribe? Like, how do you reach out and become associated with that group? Because people sometimes go, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to
Yes.
go. So how do you start that? How do you start that process
Yeah.
of finding the right people for you?
Yeah. Well, for me, I actually started by getting to know my community better. So I started to join community groups. I would do a lot of networking, and I also decided to join a business group, things like that. So what it found was that I was busy with connecting with communities or individuals that I started to recognize what I resonated with and what I didn't resonate with. And then after a couple of years of doing that, it was like, oh gosh, I'm so busy meeting people that I'm actually not doing anything. But what it did do was build up my understanding of what was a good fit for me, because I was still, yeah, finding what is that group, what is that tribe, and even just doing that process, I became much more familiar with what I was looking like. So then I became more focused on finding those groups, and connecting with other people. So for example, I've just started writing my story, finally putting it pen to paper rather than just thinking, wow, this is going to be a great book when I start. Uh, so I immediately went in to find a group of authors, so that I could be in that moment. So yeah, it was a bit of looking at what I want to do next, and go find that tribe. But it's definitely trial and error, but it's a great thing because really the error becomes the learning of more understanding of yourself. So yeah, it does become deliberate after a while, but the best part was actually finding who those tribes are. So now, I've had the great opportunity of being within your community, and I love it because there's so much for me to learn from. When we join new spaces, there's a whole level of, even though there's positivity and greatness around you, you kind of go, oh, okay. So you feel like the little fish in a big pond.
Mhm.
But also recognize when you become the big fish when it flips and you become the big fish in the little pond, that it's time to look for a bigger pond now.
Right.
Um, yeah, so absolutely, just being out there.
When you talked about that trial and error process of finding the right group, that trial and error fits entrepreneurship, fits all the new things that you're trying. And that trial and error is the biggest fear of so many people. They psych themselves out so much about what if this, what if that, and they're so afraid to try something because of that potential downfall or that potential error. How do you fight fear? How do you help your clients overcome those fear barriers so that they do go out there and do something?
Yeah. So how for your first part of your question, how do I fight fear is to just keep going through it. Now, one of the things that I recognized is after losing my mum and I'd run away from home at an early age and then moved to Australia, was that I realized I was a natural survivor. I didn't think about it. I just had to get I had to get the solution that was needed, which was really just about survival. So it wasn't about being deliberate. It was what this is what gets me to the next stage. So again, thinking about the truth and the facts of that was that I was in a state of fear that I called survival, and I just got it done. But as I kind of sat inside that societal label, then it was like those fears were the reasons I couldn't do anything. So don't do anything. So again, I disconnected from a natural thing that I did, um, and created something else. So with my clients, it's the same sort of thing. We're looking for those moments that they actually, even with the fear, they walk through it
Mhm.
because they had to, and and it's something. Well, I'm going to say it's something small because we're not talking about the moments of, for example, public speaking, and I've just got to get up there and walk through it, because we all know that for the first time, or even thinking about that, public speaking is probably one of the biggest ones. But again, it's still a lot of what I do is reconnecting or flipping in the perspective so that they can see the truth out of that. Now, um, one thing I will say, which is exactly the same for me once I became conscious to the fact that fear was a real, it would really stop you, is to, again, recognize that that's what it is. Take small steps or even take the big leap, depending on where you're at, and just again be conscious and aware of how you're feeling, what's happening. And what we normally find is that when we sort of go out and get some feedback, or somebody gives us a compliment, that how we were feeling inside in that moment was what was happening externally.
Mhm.
So I know it's a bit of a repeat, but it's reconnecting, looking at that perspective in a different way, and using that fear to be able to just go get what you want. But yes, it's never easy as you start out, but you become so much more confident
Mm.
by allowing yourself to do it.
What was one of the greatest fears that you faced that you swapped into a positive motivation?
It was public speaking.
So what
Now,
is that self-talk that you did to yourself that convinced yourself, okay, here I go?
yeah. Uh, so with the public speaking, now public speaking would even be even if it was my best friends, my family, I could not get up and be the center of the room and say something. So that was the first thing I recognized. It's like, well, how come I can sit amongst my group and talk without a problem, but the moment I have to stand up and present something, then there was a major fear. And of course, that talk is, what if it's not impactful? What if I stuff up my words? What if actually what I'm saying doesn't make sense? What if it doesn't land? All
Mhm.
of those sorts of things. Um, and there came a moment that there was no choice because I was the leader of this group, and who else had to do it except me? So I got up and I did the presentation. And to be truthful, I don't know how. I don't know what I said or what I did in that moment. But the feedback I got was, that was great. The information was really good, and you look so confident up on stage, and you do that so well. And I'm just listening to these people going, uh, yeah, that's good, but who was that? Because it wasn't me, type of thing. But again, that positive re-engagement was like, after a while it became, maybe there is something in this. Maybe they're not just telling me to lift my spirits, and the actual fact was I was terrible, but they're going to tell me I did okay. But yeah, it is feedback is really, really crucial to part of living deliberately, because especially in our culture, to receive compliment is not easy.
Mhm.
It's not easy to receive. So if somebody would compliment me, I'd kind of just shy away and not accept that. And that was a huge step for me to do, is to accept a compliment.
So
Yeah.
I was going to ask this, but since you brought it up, what is the right way to accept a compliment?
Thank you.
And
Thank you. And I'm really appreciative of that. Even just to say, like, I used to feel the words be forced out of my mouth when I first started to say that. And again, it was just being conscious of, that's a compliment, say thank you.
Mhm.
Start with that.
Nicely. I think one of my first lessons with that was so I used to do a whole bunch of Christmas cards every year, and this is before I had my own cards, and I would actually find certain cards for certain people. And there was
Mm,
this one person who loved like dogs and pets and all that stuff, so I purposely picked a card with a dog on it and I wrote the card and sent it out. And they came back and they go, "Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you found a card that matched exactly what I like." And because I was uncomfortable receiving a compliment like that, I go, "Oh, don't worry about it. It was nothing. I'm happy that you got it, right?" But the fact that I said, "Oh, it was nothing," diminished the amount of value she thought she received. And she goes,
yes.
and luckily she was a close friend and she was able to reverse that back to me and goes, "Yeah, so this is why you don't do this." I'm like, "Ah, I get it now." So you never say, "Oh, it was nothing."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Or else I would just say nothing. I would just go,
Hmm,
okay.
you got
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
So let's put you on the world stage, and you have a few minutes to spread one message for everybody to remember Deborah for. What would that message be?
Your backstory is the absolute reason why you will be okay. You can rewrite your narrative, and you will absolutely be okay. And that's exactly what happened for me. That's where the feminine warrior came from, because I embraced my past. I loved it. I didn't fear it. That would be my one message.
Awesome, nicely said. Before I let you go, I got some rapid fire questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. All right, so stranded on a desert island, one food to eat for the rest of your life. What? No consequence.
Sorry, repeat the question. I was so in depth with it. Sorry, repeat the question. Let me
Stranded on
go.
a desert island, one food to eat for the rest of your life. No consequence.
Pavlova.
Awesome. Hollywood calls and goes, Deborah, we love your story. We would love to have a biopic on you. Who would you cast to play you?
Demi Moore. That's
Awesome.
interesting. That just popped out.
Demi Moore shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, I got casted to play you. Let's have a fun time." And you go, "Don't worry about Demi. I got the whole night planned out." What does that night look like?
That that's a night of some pampering, and let's have some wine and let's have just a good sit down talk and let's just talk about the past and have fun and be girls.
So you're in the middle of this awesome fun and discussions and story sharing, all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I'm a little hungry. And you go, "Hey, Demi, no problem. I'll whip up something, one of my specialties." What's that dish that you would serve?
So we'd be having it would definitely have to have a Chinese influence. So yes, we'd be having maybe some sweet and sour pork, and then finishing that off with pavlova.
Nicely done. And before my last question, give me a number from 1 to 4.
3.
1, 2, 3. So if you had to relate success to drapery, how would you use
Drapery.
drapery as a metaphor for success?
Drapery. Okay, so I'm drapery is not a word that I'm familiar with, but what it does bring to mind is a curtain. So success, drapery allows you to open the curtain to success and step forward and own it.
Nicely done. So that's how success is like drapery. Thank you very much for your time. It was a lot of fun hearing your feedback, your comments, and your stories. Got lots of good nuggets there for people to really grow and self-reflect as well. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
So I'm across all social media. Just look for Deborah Dickinson or Deborah Dickinson Coaching. And so Facebook, Instagram, my website is Deborah Dickinson Coaching. And so yeah, just search up Deborah Dickinson Coaching.
Awesome. And any final words from you?
Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Um, Congratulations on your upcoming book. I'm sure lots of people are going to be very excited to get their hands on that. And we can't wait to hear your big announcement as to when that's going to come out. So until next time, make sure everybody connect with Deborah. She is Deborah. My name's Fong. And today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.